All right, welcome back to New Mexico Rising and Director's Cut Radio. One of my things that I've realized over the past few years is that I'm a huge entertainment, pop culture, video game fan. And I know a lot of you guys are that are listening to the radio show, but some of the people that are in New Mexico, how about you? What is your temperament about it? I was super excited to do this interview with somebody that I've been kind of bouncing in around out of my life for a very long time. His name is Chris Gore. How are you, buddy?
Dan, I'm doing well. We have been drunk together. I'm not gonna lie. We have drank at the Critics' Choice Awards.
I have I have videos here, and I'm like thinking, yeah, these are the best videos while we're making them. And then after, I'm like, maybe I shouldn't share this stuff. Let's keep it to it. It's not bad, actually.
Share it. It'll be fun.
Yeah, we've hung out for many, many years at the Critics' Choice Awards. Before that, the very first time I met you was in like 2001, I believe, and it was, or around there, it was at Sundance, and you were pitching, before you produced this movie, a little movie called, what'd you call it? My independent feature,
Oh my God,
my big fat independent movie. Yeah. And you were pitching that. I was hanging out with Lloyd Kaufman at the time as part of like the Trauma Dance thing. I was part of his we just produced a movie called Kung Fu for Kiddies. We were about ready to start working on a feature film. Kung Fu Kiddies was doing, and that was doing well. And then later we hung out with you for a long time, and I've just known you in and out of my life for a very long, weird time. And it's been good.
Oh my God. That, first of all, Trauma Dance is so fun. Right on Main Street, and Kung Fu Kitties. Dude, like that was those were the days. Those were the halcyon days of when Sundance was fun. I don't know. I think it's probably, for me, it's probably just a little too corporate, but I don't think you could ever say anything about Trauma is corporate at all. And there's a reason everyone calls Lloyd Kaufman Uncle Lloyd. He's so beloved. And him, shining a spotlight on, lo-fi, low budget filmmakers. I mean, that's his bread and butter. And I love those kind of movies. I'm not this elitist snob of like, oh, I like the Oscar movies. Like I like the Oscar movies. Look, I thought Tar was great last year. I loved RRR. But I also give me some of that, give me Psycho Gorman, or just like I love exploitation or low budget horror films. So I think it's nice to have diversified taste. But what were you, like 5 years old back then? You're so young.
I just look young. I was fresh out of high school, probably 19 or 20. I think I may have been 21 because I was going to the bars up in Salt Lake with you guys. So I think I was 21 or something. Yeah, it was a long time ago, and it was. It's just kind of like being weirdly jumping around the pop culture scene of like the weird side punk indie world that I've been part of for very long. I don't know how I ended up on this like mainstream show here in New Mexico talking about talking with big name celebrities, but it's always good to like hang out with somebody like you that's also been kind of bouncing around. And that's the whole point of this documentary. And I know that's kind of weird that I'm going through this ADHD like kick of explaining it, but pop culture was changed and accidentally predicted so much in a time before YouTube. And that's what this is about. Like us in the Trauma Dance thing, that's YouTube.
Yeah.
America's Funniest Videos, that's YouTube. This was the days right before YouTube got its start. Kids are getting their independent movies out. The only way to get them shown are in like small film festivals in their city, like the PMF festival here in Albuquerque that no longer exists. But then it was like, if you're doing the big leagues of indie punk filmmaking, Trauma was the way to go. And you were hawking my big fat independent movie at the same time, and I don't even think it was made yet. And I think you were talking about it, and you were trying to produce it and pull together some of the cast. This is all from my memory of 20 something years ago. So I could be a child that's now able to drink since those days, I think.
Yeah, you were able to drink back then. Over there. But it's my big fat independent movie, I did make it. It was released by Anchor Bay Entertainment. You can find it's not out on digital. We are planning a digital release hopefully before the end of this year. But it's you can find like a DVD of it used on Amazon pretty cheap, I would snap that up because I personally produced the DVD for my big fat independent movie. But this project, Attack of the Doc, is definitely a little different, but Attack of the Show and G4 TV was, a precursor to YouTube. But when I really got interested in YouTube when, I don't know if you remember this, because in the early YouTube, the longest clip you could upload was 10 minutes.
Yeah.
That was the maximum clip you could upload. And Red Letter Media had done this 70-minute review of Star Wars Episode 1, which was released in 2005. Yep. And then, it was the Mr. Plinkett. Oh my God. I ate it up all in the little 10-minute chunks, right? It was so fantastic. And then I remember watching that and just going like, oh, YouTube is the future. Like that is the future of, someone can come up with, not only just for cat videos, YouTube, but also just for whatever your sort of narrow sliver of interest is, you can find someone that has a whole channel dedicated to it. I mean, I'm personally addicted to all these like channels that do recipes from the early 1800s, like how to make a chicken pot pie, but only using what they had in the early 1800s in terms of cooking utensils. I'm obsessed with these. It's something that's like really relaxing. Like, oh, it took a really long time to make a chicken pot pie in the early 1800s. But you've got people on YouTube talking about video games and movies and pop culture and tech and comic books. And you can go into just fetishistic detail about anything. And really, I'm a huge fan. I probably watch YouTube more than anything. I watch YouTube and I watch movies. So, and occasionally really good television. Like if you've seen season 3 of Picard, it's best Trek I've seen in, I can't even remember. Season 3, just start with season 3 of Star Trek Picard. Trust me, it's 10 episodes. You will love it. But, the genesis of this movie was like just constantly being recognized at film festivals and, Comic-Cons like San Diego Comic-Con, WonderCon, LA Comic-Con, people saying, whatever happened to G4 TV? Whatever happened to Attack of the Show? And I was asked this question so much, I said, I'm so tired of being asked this question. Someone should make a documentary about that. Why not me? I'll just make it. So I did a Kickstarter and then, realized like, oh, there's actually an audience here that really wants to know about this. And the original vision for the doc was kind of scrapped because we started shooting in March of 2020.
Yeah.
That kind of threw a wrench.
What happened? Yeah.
What happened? So we ended up doing the interviews over, and we actually banked a couple of interviews. We built a studio that was really cool. We're going to do all the interviews in person. And then, you know what happened in March of 2020, the pandemic. And so we pivoted. It's like, okay, we're going to make an archival doc. All the interview subjects will be disembodied voices. It'll be all people from behind the scenes telling you stories about Attack of the Show from behind the scenes and little anecdotes and things you never knew. So that's what it ended up by necessity turning into. So, but it's also like, look, I realize the doc gets a little sentimental, but I was there and it was the best job I ever had in TV. So I hope it reminds people of not just, their love. Why did Attack of the Show and G4 have such a fandom? This will remind you of that. And then also, a reminder of an era. I tried to do that in the opening of the movie. I tried to like take you back to the early 2000s, which doesn't seem that long ago, but it was different in 2001 when you and I were in Park City, Utah, walking up Main Street with my Moto Razor. Did I have a Razor then? No, no, the Razor was later. I may have had like a Palm Trio or something. A chunky, one of those chunky phones.
I remember having the Sprint big palm that was like thick, but yet only had a screen that was like the size of this, but still touch. Yeah. It was like the precursor to the iPhone.
Yeah, whatever phone I had, I kept some of those old phones. I still have my Moto Q, but with the keyboard, it wasn't the Palm Trio. It might have been one of those Motorola flip phones with the little antenna that comes out. But I love looking at old tech. Now I think it's kind of collectible. It's weird just going to like resale shops and like, oh my God, there's an iPod video that's non-functioning. Like, it's just so quaint and funny. But yeah, it's interesting how much it's changed and how much like devices and social media has dramatically changed things. Like even the way that we talk to each other, friendships, dating, relationships.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of changes for the good. I can text a little thing and suddenly food appears at my door. But maybe sort of the social media aspects and how that's kind of warped our brains and perceptions of reality, maybe not so good. And who knows, maybe one day we'll learn that social media is probably worse for us than smoking, or at least when it comes to our mental health. But I think we're coming to realize that now. But this was before that, when every tech device was like a holy cow, we're living, we basically have Starfleet communicators now. We have them in our hands.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I think the whole thing about G4 kind of like making a pop culture channel about like what's going on for a generation, we ate that up. I watched that religiously. I remember flying out to LA because Lloyd was actually going to be on G4, and I was doing a short film to promote a movie that we were coming up with him. So I had to fly to LA, wait for him to finish taping at G4, and then we were going to make a little small movie with him out in West Hollywood, which was super. Like, this takes me back to my like young punk filmmaker days, just watching this documentary, reminding me of like how that was just, it was a lifestyle. It was a period of time that I can't believe actually existed. And G4 is really the only source for kind of capturing that idea and capturing that generation of kids like us that were like, we just finished living our lives pre-tech, playing in yards, going out, hanging out with friends. Tech was showing up, we're messing around with it, and then now post-tech is YouTube and everybody is completely connected. This is that weird, G4 was that weird gray area of like, hey, all this cool tech's coming out, all this new pop culture movies and stuff to check out. And we have cute people telling you about it that are your age, and it was a fascinating time. So I'm excited about this documentary more than probably anybody else you've talked to so far. It speaks about me instead of shows me a group of people. It's speaking about me. I wasn't on G4 by any means, but I had a slight connection by bouncing around and meeting. I met most of the cast because of the events that I went to and things that I did. So it was really weird.
Yeah, that era was, and you say like young punk, I'm an old punk filmmaker. I'm still doing the same job that I started out of high school, Film Threat. My Film Threat YouTube channel, it was like a punk rock fanzine, then a magazine in the 90s, then a website, now a website and a YouTube channel and whatnot. And so I'm still doing the same job, Film Threat, that I started as a kid. I can't unhire myself for some reason. I just, it's still weird to be doing that. And my attitude and the way I look at the world is still from sort of a punk rock, DIY, Gen X. Like, I thought of an idea, I'm going to make something from nothing. That's the sort of punk rock attitude, is like, a thing doesn't exist, I will birth it into existence by any means necessary and use whatever tools are at my disposal. So that's kind of how this movie was made. I'm working on another film that we plan to put on the festival circuit next year, which is called Film Threat Sucks. The trailer is in the background, like right there. There's a little teaser trailer on the internet. If you do a quick search, you'll find Film Threat Sucks trailer. There's a little teaser. I've been working on that for like a decade, but this thing I think really needed to be said, because when I look at geek culture, I'm like, look, the political landscape is always divided. That's just a given based on the nature of politics. But I have never seen geek culture divided. I mean, I've been going to San Diego Comic-Con since 1989, not to date myself, when it was like this small, it was at a different location. It was at the it was not at the convention center, but it was just at this college. Like, it was just long boxes and comics and whatnot. And everyone was welcome. Nobody cared. Hey, you love Captain America, Superman, Spider-Man, you love underground comics. Hey, you like Peter Baggy? Come in here. You all are welcome. You like comics, we're all nerds, we get it. But I've never seen like geek culture divided, and it's mostly online. Whenever you go to any live event, there's no division. it doesn't exist. That stuff doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It's only on the internet where this exists. And I wanted through, not to be sort of lectury, but like the doc, there are little themes and running threads about like what changed from back in the early 2000s to now. So I'm trying to tell 20 years of nerd culture history, but through the lens of this TV show where everyone was united. A TV show that lasted from 2005 to like, early 2013. And like, well, what changed after 2013 in the culture? And well, a couple of things changed. One, iPhones became cheap. And then the other thing is they started using algorithms to more manipulate how you use social media. Yeah. But that wasn't present during that period. That wasn't present. All I remember was making friends on Twitter. And now Twitter is it's not that. I don't use Twitter as much. I'm kind of like the person who quit smoking, but they bum cigarettes. That's my relationship with Twitter. Okay. Like I don't smoke, but I will tweet out a couple times a week.
Every so often you're there. All right.
Yeah, just to let people know I'm still here. I'm still alive. I'm still doing projects. But I'm not an active user 5 times a day tweeting whatever my thoughts are. Yeah. So.
And I think that's what has kind of fascinated me about this whole documentary that you did, is that the Attack of the Show was nerd culture transitioning. At that time, being a nerd and knowing about pop culture that was actually nerdy. Now it's mainstream. Everything is truly mainstream. And I think what happened was that, and this is my own perception, is that G4 and Attack of the Show and the pre-YouTube era kind of turned that nerd culture into a mainstream machine, and realizing that no, there's not just the nerdy kids that are kind of awkward that are reading the comic books. You put cool comic book characters on a big screen doing big cool things, more people will want to show up because these ideas are fun and exciting to see. Going to a Comic-Con now almost feels anti-punk.
Yeah.
More than anything else.
I mean, look, you can walk into a Target, and you can get a nerdy t-shirt now. It's not like a radical thing. I remember like being a little bit ashamed of like that I had like a huge stack of long boxes in the corner of all the comics, all, by number and by cat. I have a whole long box of Batman, DC, Marvel, Fantastic Four, all that stuff. And that stuff is just like regular mainstream culture now. It's become that. But when I grew up, being a nerd was, you were bullied. Yeah. You were bullied. If you were assembling Aurora model kits on a sunny day during the summer and reading comic books while eating an ice cream sandwich you just got from the ice cream man, you were definitely a nerd. I was not the guy like picked first to play any sport. I can 100% confirm that fact. But now being a nerd is something that is celebrated. But now you've got factions of nerds. Well, you like this, but I don't like this. And I don't care what you dislike or like. I'm 100% sure we'll find something that we agree on if you kind of sift through, all the different nerd, fandoms that there are. You'll always find some points of connection. And I love to disagree with a friend about, well, the best Dune book is obviously the 4th one. God Emperor of Dune is the best. Written by Frank Herbert. That's the one. No, it's the first Dune book. Well, no, it's that's a great debate and conversation. Respectfully debating people in the space. It's fun. And we've forgotten how to respectfully debate. I would say to you, if we can learn to respectfully debate online, we can solve all the world's problems rather than this sort of ratcheting up divisiveness that we see. And so partially what I was trying to do with the doc is remind people of that time, that there was a time when all we did was just like get excited about things rather than, rage post on social media that we didn't like something. I think in some ways, people, in particular young people, are addicted to the dopamine rush of getting angry about something. So they look for something to be angry about and then express it in a way that is destructive and divisive. And I think that weaning yourself from that kind of dopamine anger hit is something that will be useful. That's a subject for another doc. How did we go down this rabbit hole?
I don't know. I even came into this completely unprepared. I was like, we're talking pop culture for my world. I know it. I kind of know it.
Your lifetime you were preparing for this interview.
And I'm a huge Twin Peaks fan, so I have a weird corner of the fandom that even fans don't even want to jump in. Like, as you can tell, I got an Audrey Horne tattoo. I broadcast from the Red Room. It's a subtle nod. And as I'm drinking out of my coffee, here's a Double R Diner cup that I actually got from Tweeds out in Washington. So
good. I'm a big Twin Peaks fan. We did a cover story on Film Threat. You can look up that cover story where we interviewed a lot of the cast. Super fan of that show. I think the first season is gold. Episode 8 of the first season and episode 8 of that season, the sort of the final season that Lynch did was pure brilliance. What he accomplished, love it. Love that show. And that's why I like, there's so many different types of fandom. I mean, there's like a Twin Peaks, and I know that they've done Twin Peaks conventions. I remember at the time they were like Twin Peaks, like fanzines and whatnot, like that whole fandom, like, yeah. And this was like before having like a DVR, right? You had to like record things on VHS if you even knew how to like get the timer right. But that was appointment television. Oh my God. So yeah, I should have recognized those drapes. That's awesome.
It's kind of funny because I did actually go to a Twin Peaks meetup a few weeks ago on the day on Twin Peaks Day in Squinalmy, Washington, and kind of watched and met a lot of Twin Peaks fans and saw a lot of cosplayer. And I was like the quiet guy from New Mexico that spent money to go out there. And I was like, I might one of these days maybe I should make a documentary about it. So
do it.
It's just more of the fandom. Because one of my secret things that I do, and I'm going to put this out there, is that I actually manage one of those little Twin Peaks meme pages, because they're not just meme pages. It's like talk smack posting about your fandom, and you do it as funny and clever as possible. And I love it because all of the Twin Peaks fans are talking smack about their own fandom, relating it to pop culture and just putting them in meme pages. And these are all little secrets that I do. And I love it when mine takes off and goes viral or something like that. Even if it has nothing to do with like, and nobody knows I really do it. Even my partners are like, wait, what are you working on? I was like, oh, I got a dumb meme that I'm putting together. This is great. I just photoshopped this on this. And as you can tell, like, that's my thing, is that I have Audrey Horne dressed as Snow White. And it is from Adventures of Pete and Pete. It's I'm spacing it right. Petunia from Adventures of Pete and Pete. All three kind of combined into one tattoo, which was great. But see, that's my nerdy fandom that I like, and it all kind of fell and came from Attack of the Show, being able to celebrate that and making that part of a lifestyle beyond just like jumping online, watching the show, and then getting a little more tidbits here and there every so often to come through. Now it's like a complete, you're able to jump into a fandom anywhere you want, in any corner, in any capacity. And kids are meeting up on a TV show that's dead from years ago, and that's why they made season 3, just because of those fans have been actively attacking it and telling Lynch, do some more. And Lynch is like, no, I don't really want to. And if I'm going to do it, I'm kind of messing with you, which makes it even more fun.
Oh God, especially that episode 8.
Yeah.
You remember the guy, got a light. I just love that. But you should make a doc about it. Look, because I will say this, I came up with this idea to do Attack of the Doc in 2017. And all I did was register attackofthedoc.com. I grabbed all the social media handles. And then I was like, I'm going to make this movie someday. I mean, here it is 6 years later. But if you're going to make a doc about something, you had better love it, because you are going to spend years working on it. It is a process, and to get it just right. And, I'm telling you, you got to have a passion for it. Obviously you have that passion. And so I would say go forth. I mean, at some point, if you have something to show, maybe you do a little crowdfunding project. And by the way, hit me up, go to filmthreat.com, click on contact, ask me for the crowdfunding essay. I'll send you an essay that a buddy of mine wrote about how to raise money, crowdfunding for a movie. He wrote this, it's like over a 10-page essay about the successful ways to raise money with a crowdfund to make your movie.
Okay.
So I'll send it to you. I'll send it to anyone watching this or listening to this. If you just go to filmthreat.com/contact, I see all those emails. So send it my way. And I just encourage, like, look, and it's a really interesting thing of like where creators are crossing over. You look at people from YouTube, a lot of people from YouTube have gone like, I'm just going to make a movie. I'm just going to do it. Or I'm going to make like a video essay, right? Well, if you can make a video essay that's 10 minutes, you can make one that's 90 minutes and you can sell it on Vimeo or through a company like Indie Rights or so many other outlets. You can get your movie available, on Prime Video on Amazon. Why not? I wouldn't recommend it as, I don't know a lot of documentary. I know a lot of documentary filmmakers, but I don't know any documentary filmmakers who have butlers. So if you go into it, don't expect that you're going to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
But could you do a side project where ultimately you sell it and like, hey, okay, I didn't lose money. That to me is a huge win. And ultimately, my goal was always like to give back to the fans, because everyone who worked on Attack of the Doc is a super fan of Attack of the Show and G4 TV. So like Walter Areas, who's one of the producers, Bobby Schwartz, who's a producer editor, Anthony Ray Bench, Phil Eubanks, Glenn Brown. These guys they all watched Attack of the Show when like they were in junior high. They were like kids watching the show. Somehow we end up being connected, usually through going to a convention. I'll meet them and it's like, hey, let's you have editing skills, let's work on it. So everyone who worked on the doc on the behind the scenes were all super fans of the show. So they knew, like, I remember a time when Kevin did this, and it's stuff that like I don't remember everything. I kind of feel like Shatner whenever he's asked a really specific question about an episode of Star Trek. I'll go like, oh yeah, I'm pretty sure what you're saying is true. I just don't remember, because I would watch Attack of the Show. I watch it every day, like everybody else.
Oh yeah, same, yeah.
I just never watched myself. I would always fast forward if it was an episode. I know what I said. I don't need to watch.
That's my bit, yeah.
That's my whatever. But so it was so great to work with like this team that like they grew up as kids watching the show and now are working on a documentary about the show. We're doing a screening. I don't know when you're going to run this, but the premiere is April 21st at the Frida Cinema, and they'll all be there. We're doing a big premiere in a movie theater, showing the movie with Zach Selwyn will be there. People from the old G4 will be there. People who work behind the scenes will be there. Fans will be there, because I'll never do a premiere of a movie unless fans can buy tickets.
Okay.
I like this whole elitist thing. And I know you and I are very fortunate. We get to go to a lot of special events.
Mm-hmm. I have a picture of you photobombing the Daniels from
that's great.
everything everywhere all at once, and that's nothing. That's the top of the list. So it's like you and me hanging out. I'm taking a photo with him, and you're photobombing in the back corner. I'll show that, but it's hilarious.
But I feel very fortunate. I feel very lucky and grateful that we get to be a part of Hollywood and get invited to events. Not everybody can do that.
Yeah,
which is why we decided we're going to sell tickets.
Okay, that sounds great.
So, like, I want anyone who can just buy a ticket to a movie to be able to come to the premiere with everyone else there in attendance and see the film. It's really important for me to always have that. Because I'm sort of like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Like, I was on Attack of the Show, but I was also a fan. I watched Screensavers, for a long time. Screensavers and X-Play I watched like before I ended up being cast on Attack of the Show. And it was like, I love, I can't believe this network exists. It's everything I love. Mm-hmm. So to be a part of it was like I'm just really proud to have been a part of it, and just proud to have known, Kevin and Olivia during that period and everyone on that show. And I hope that they'll all see it and bring back some of those member berries, and remember a period when we were maybe a little less divided and just having fun on TV. And if it worked, cool. And if it didn't work, more than likely it still made you laugh.
Yeah. About 10 years ago, I was working over at Reels, and someone sent a little demo video of like behind the scenes of us working at Reels. And I was like, God, this just reminds me of like that nuts and bolts putting together a TV network. And I bet you that, and then watching clips from this documentary that you have just reminds me of my days working at Reels when it was like first boosting off and kicking off. And that it's just weird slices of pop culture history and work dynamics that I just relate to so much. And as you and I are just chatting, we're doing the same job. Yes, you're in a bigger market. I'm in a small market doing my punk thing, and I'm like, hey, Film Threat, you hiring? I'm happy to do some segments for you. But
we are looking for writers. We're always looking for writers. We have writers, about 30 writers, freelance that are all over the world. We have writers in India writing about Indian cinema for us. But yeah, I don't know. It's just weird. Like I can't. It's like, you know, as soon as I'm out, they pull me back in. So Film Threat's been a part of, like, I started it when I was a teenager. Here I am, an old Gen X guy still doing Film Thread and just pursuing my passions, making, you know, movies about things I love.
Yeah, I was mtv.org, emptyv.org. That was what I created, my little blog for filmmaking and writing that. And then I did Director's Cut Radio, which got a couple of podcast nominations for the like People's Choice Podcast Award, and now like those are just big names that are getting those awards. And I launched all that years ago, so it's just I wish I was in LA so I could get closer to it. Being in New Mexico has been great because they are making a lot of movies here, and I've gotten a little more access than a lot of more people in town just because BFCA connections and stuff. But it's just really I really like how you and your career and all this stuff is just I just wish I was you. I guess that's
Look, dude, you know, first of all, you don't have to be me. You can only be Dan. But what you can do, you can make that Twin Peaks documentary. You can do, I mean, the documentary that really inspired me were two docs. One was the Belushi doc.
Okay.
The Belushi doc is all archival footage, and it's interviews about John Belushi recorded. The person who did the interview was his widow. Went around to like Lorne Michaels, Dan Aykroyd, Carrie Fisher. It's an all archival documentary, and another archival doc called You Don't Know Me, NOMI, about Showgirls. There was no footage shot for it, and all the interviews were done over the internet. It is a great documentary about Showgirls. I love that doc. Those two documentaries really inspired me that, like, well, I'm going to approach Attack of the Doc the same way. And it'll kind of ground you in that era, because the first chunk of Attack of the Doc kind of takes place, it's all in 480, you know, like it's, you know, it's the 4:3 TV screen, and then it kind of opens up later and whatnot. So, yeah, no, I can't wait for people to see it. You can go to attackofthedoc.com. There'll be links to where you can purchase it or rent it on VOD, and follow us on social media. We're Attack of the Doc on everything. Dan, I know I got to run.
I know you got to go. I was going to be like, just throw in all the additional, where can we follow you? Where can we get it? How do we get it? Put the ad in, put the plug. We need people to go check this out. Go ahead.
I appreciate it. Go to attackofthedoc.com. Follow us, Attack of the Doc. And if you want to check out Film Thread, just go to Film Threat. You can get this shirt. If you go to filmthreat.com, click on shop. My little Film Thread. It's a little bat inspired, if you ask me. So there you go. Thanks, Dan. Thank you for having me on your show. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, sorry for going too long. I think I was just gushing about pop culture, and you're the perfect guy to deal with. So
no apologies necessary.
The longest interview is the one that I'm completely unprepared for. That's it. Thank you very much. That was Chris Gore with his new documentary, Attack of the Doc. Check it out. And thank you again, Chris, for joining us.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Dan.